It is amazing how far we've come. Hello, everyone. Welcome to After Action Report, your numbers recap show for all Schmoedown matches to keep you caught up on all the action. I'm your host, Megs, here for the Call to Action podcast channel. If you noticed, this classified edition is our 50th episode of After Action Report. I could not have believed a year ago that I would be doing a show long-term here on YouTube, especially one that would have gone this many episodes in. But thank you so much to those of you, the listeners, who have stayed tuned in all throughout this past season and into this off season. And specifically, people here at the Call to Action podcast channel that I specifically want to thank. All of you have been amazing supporters of everything that I've done here, but specifically Danny Joy, who helped me conceptualize the idea for this show, and Nat, who was a longtime co-host here on the show. Jake, as always, got me started with some amazing thumbnails that you see here every week. But let's go ahead and jump into the episode. As we are approaching this streak of 50 weeks worth of episodes almost consecutively, there were a couple weeks that we had to take off because there weren't any matches to talk about. But it got me thinking about what is my favorite part of the Schmoedown and what can I talk about that is really interesting to me. When I started watching the Schmoedown back in 2019, the teams division was what really caught my eye initially, specifically the 2019 teams tournament. I got back and watched the 2018 Anarchy tournament, and then watching the 2019 tournament, I realized there wasn't a lot of analysis in relation to comparing teams inside of the tournaments themselves. There was a lot of lifetime stats, all of that. So that sent me down the rabbit hole that I've been down for the past couple years, where I was analyzing team performances inside of specific time frames. So for this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep dive into win streaks for the team's divisions. In order to qualify for this, a team has to have a streak of 3 or more matches. Typically, it's at least 3 win streaks inside of a tournament in order to get to the finals. Sometimes more if you have a 16-team tournament, but if you're an 8-team tournament, 3 wins will get you to the team final. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a look at all the teams that have achieved this, and then we're also going to break it down even further. Now I'm going to take a look at members of those teams that may have had teams multiple that have attained win streaks and give my thoughts on who I think are some of the top teams players in the league, either past or present. Some of them you can probably guess who they are, but I may come up with a few that will surprise you. So without further ado, let's jump into a list of all the teams that have achieved 3 or more win streaks. So what we are looking at here is you have the number of total matches in the streak, the team that achieved that, and the year or seasons in which that was achieved. So without too much surprise, the Patriots currently hold the longest win streak at 9 matches total. This was over the 2016 and 2017 seasons. The next 2 is a tie between the Shire Wolves and the Family, who both had 6-game win streaks in 2018 and 2019, respectively. The 5-match streak was done by Shazam twice in 2019 and 2021. If we look at the 4-match streaks, you have the Schmoes in 2015, Team Action in 2017, Above the Line in 2017, Who's the Boss in 2018, and The Odd Couple in 2020. Moving into 3 win streaks, which was the bare minimum that you had starting at the very beginning, the very first team tournament. You had Team Bob go on a 3-game win streak in 2015. Like I said, the very first season where they had the teams division. Wolves of Steel, 2016 to 2017, had a 3-game win streak. Rotten Tomatoes in 2017, Above the Line in 2018, critically acclaimed between 2018 and 2019, Corruption in 2019, The Odd Couple in 2019, Shazam in 2020, Final Exam 2020, Danger Zone 2021, Lightning Time 2021, King Arthur, and Press Room, rounding out the bottom 2 with a 2021 season where they had 3-game win streaks. Now you'll notice I have some asterisks here on this list, and those are indicating teams that had multiple win streaks. So, for instance, the first one here, Schmoedown, they had 2 win streaks of 5 in a row in 2019 and 2021. And in between that, they had a 3-game win streak in 2020, with their only losses in between those streaks being the title matches at Spectacular, which they are actually still technically part of a 5-game win streak for the 2021 season, which could extend into 2022, depending on how things go the rest of this season. We look at above the line. They had a 4-game win streak in 2017. And then when you go to 2018, they had another 3-game win streak that ended with them getting the title and promptly retiring. And the last team I want to talk about, the Odd Couple, who in 2019 had a 3-game win streak, and then in 2020 had a 4-game win streak. So that takes 7 total matches. So not surprising that the Patriots currently have the lead in the longest streak of wins. That is a historic feat indeed. But Schmoedown has 13 total matches of wins, and their only 2 losses thus far have been at Spectacular, which broke up their 3 respective win streaks. Like I said, the Schmoedown team is still on technically a run because they have not had a season match since their win at Spectacular the end of this past season. So depending on the outcome of their next match, they could move up into the next bracket of having a second win streak of 6 matches, which would match up with the Shire Wolves and the family. And if they continue their hot streak, they could approach or even surpass possibly the Patriots. That is going to be a very mounting feat indeed. They have to get at least 4 more wins in order to tie the current streak at 9, but time will tell. So now let's jump into our next graphic, which is going to look at team players that have been on multiple teams that have had win streaks. So looking at our top competitors inside of teams that have had win streaks, our top 2 here, both at 16 total matches that have been inside of win streaks for their respective teams. Bibiani and Snyder with 16 apiece, Bibiani being part of Critically Acclaimed that went on a 3-game win streak, and then Shazam, who went on the 3 different streaks totaling 13 matches. Jeff Snyder, obviously part of the historic Patriots run, and also having multiple win streaks with the Odd Couple. Behind him is Snyder's Patriots partner, JTE, who did have a 3-game win streak in that very first tournament with Team Box Office Breakdown, as well as also being part of that historic Patriots run. So he gets to take that number 3 spot respectively here. We look at McWeeny next, who had a total of 13 matches. His streaks came with above the line 2 streaks specifically with that team. And then he had a 6-game win streak with the family. Ben Bateman comes behind next with 11, and you will notice that he has win streaks with Team Action, Who's the Boss, and Danger Zone. A little more on that later. Right behind him is his Team Action partner, Andrew Guy, with 10 total matches with the Team Action run and the family. And my bottom 2 here, I'm going to make special note of Clark Wolf, who had streaks with Wolves of Steel and the Shire Wolves, and Mark Riley, who was her Wolves of Steel partner. And Riley was also part of Who's the Boss, who went on their win streak. Thank you guys so much for joining me in on this episode. I love talking about the teams division. Like I said, it is my favorite division inside the league. I love analyzing it from a strategy standpoint, looking at individual players, looking at team performances. We definitely found some really cool things to talk about during this episode. Obviously, it is not surprising that the Patriots and Shazam are the topic of conversation when you're talking about greatest teams of all time, considering the straight win streak that the Patriots went on and then the multiple win streaks that Shazam has gone on. I'm not surprised that those are the 2 that we're talking about currently as greatest teams of all time. There are many others that are considered in that conversation as well, but as things stand right now, if you're just looking at teams that have gone on impressive streaks of wins, those are your 2 top competitors. When we talk about team individual competitors, so who is the most impressive team partner, things get a little more interesting. Because obviously, when you're thinking about the two greatest teams, you got to think about one of those competitors in each team being one of the greatest. William Bibiani, for instance, he's part of Team Shazam. He was also part of the team critically acclaimed that did go on a 3-game win streak. Jeff Snyder, he was part of the historic Patriots run, and he also had 2 multiple game win streaks with the Odd Couple, getting the team's title multiple times as well. So those are the 2 obvious picks. Now, my other person that I really like to consider one of the top team competitors is Ben the Boss Bateman. Okay, what is my basis for that? Well, let's think about it. You have a competitor that has been with 3 different teams, all 3 team combinations with various types of competitors. We're talking about Andrew Guy, Dan Murrell, and Mark Riley. 3 very different competitors. All 3 matchups, the common denominator is Ben Bateman, and the accolades have been 3 or more game win streaks, all 3 team-ups. Tournament finalists, all 3 teams. In talks of being title contenders, all 3 teams. What's the common denominator? 1 competitor, and that's Ben Bateman. Time will tell what's going to happen next season, whether we're going to see Ben go for a 4th team partner to see if he can go on another streak with another team, maybe finally getting that elusive team title belt, which does put him at a slight disadvantage in most people's minds, as opposed to Snyder, Kalinowski, Bibiani, all the other different team partners who have had success with their teams combined with the team title. So would love to hear your guys' thoughts on, do you think there is another competitor that has an even more impressive? I know I didn't necessarily talk a lot about JTE or McWeeny. Those 2 have both had success with multiple different team pairings. Andrew Guy also had a really impressive run on 2 different teams. So feel free to leave comments on what your thoughts are on top teams as well as top individual team competitors. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. But don't worry, I'm going to be back next week talking about something. I'm kind of running this week by week here, guys. We're going to be just seeing what comes up in the news as far as things that we can expect going into the next season. If you have things that you want me to talk about over the next coming weeks, be sure to leave them down in the comments. If you want to contact me on social media, my socials are listed in the description of this video, as well as the links for the Call to Action podcast socials, where I'll be dropping the graphics that I presented during this episode. Be sure that you have also hit like on this video, that you are leaving comments, you're subscribed to this channel, you're getting notified when I'm dropping new videos, as well as all the other stuff that we do here on this channel, as well as over on Twitch for the Call to Action podcast channel. And for all of us here, I'm your host, Megs. Until next time, this is After Action Report, signing off.